Get strong.
Welcome to our third episode of Fat Brain, Thin Brain. We have wonderful Lewis Bishop, who is sitting in England on lockdown.
Over here.
How are you doing, Lewis?
I'm brilliant. How are you doing, Natasha?
Yes, I'm all right. And of course, I'm Natasha Lloyd Vest, if you want the full thing. And I'm sitting here in very grey, dreary looking Denmark. So I have a light on today, so I hope I'm not orange.
You're very visible. Good.
Okay, right. We are obviously doing this as a podcast, but we do also have, if you want to see us, you can check us out on YouTube, where we have a YouTube channel, and we will put some links to where you can see that. So we'll get that done for you. But today's episode is going to be a tearjerker for everybody. Well, maybe not. I don't know. It's not. I'm not going to cry. Maybe you'll cry.
I'm definitely not going to cry. I might cry.
Then no one's going to cry. Why did we say it was a tearjerker? There's no tearjerker.
Because our emotions will connect with their heartstrings.
Okay, as we talk, we might surprise
think
ourselves.
About their upbringing.
Yeah, okay. All right. So it might be a tearjerker for our listeners rather than us.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Fine. But basically, we are looking at one of my biggest things that I think I said to you, Lewis, when we were talking a lot, was that you can never overcome any addiction, obsession, or bad relationship with food, people, yourself, your life, unless you look at the core elements of where that problem has come from. And I think majority of the time we can all safely say that the biggest problems stem from our childhood. So this is why we wanted to really launch, because our first two episodes, it's been a little bit about what is the podcast. The next episode was about how do we feel going into Corona and your goals and what you're nervous about, overeating, then you get bored and all that thing. But now we really want to dive into why we started this podcast, was about mindset, changing lifestyle, how to get more positivity into your daily goals, and not to just slump down into depressive thoughts or anything that can basically make you pick up food when you don't want to, or not go for that walk. Yeah, or not go for that walk because you just can't be bothered today.
No.
So, and the biggest element when we were talking was definitely it's your upbringing. I think so. What we're going to do is just talk about our lives, because we have similar lives in the sense that both of our parents were working class.
Yes.
I was not brought up with any money in the family or anything.
No
you. The biggest difference between us is that my parents stayed together. They were childhood sweethearts. They stayed together till my mum died 3 years ago. And you, however, were brought up by your mum primarily.
Dragged up by my mum, yep. So Dad left when I was 2, and that's the biggest difference between me and you, which is a huge difference, to be fair. But both our parents were working class and similar sort of ethics as well, wouldn't it?
And neither of them had money. So, I never had that I was handed, because I basically, an English packed lunch for a kid, at least when I was growing up, sandwich, packet of crisps, chocolate bar, drink.
Yeah.
And I just remember my mum would have those things every day in my box, right? Now, when I make a lunch box for my children, it's sandwich, but healthy versions. It's carrot sticks with hummus. It's hard-boiled egg. It's a piece of fruit. It's like one biscuit. They're like allowed one bad thing in their lunch box. So the schools are almost enforcing, like, we don't want your kids bringing cakes in and stuff like that.
Oh, so that's a Denmark school thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I try. I slip in the odd treat here and there, which my kids then fess me up to teachers. I guess what my mum put in my...
Look what mum gave me, yeah. In Danish, obviously, yeah, not English.
Yeah, of course. And then it's only water as well. In their drink bottles, they're only allowed to have water. Whereas I remember as a kid, I was allowed like a juice drink.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Never fizzy to school, ever, for me.
No.
Never allowed the fizzy stuff. So were you always packed lunch in at school? From the get-go, do you think? Or?
No. My mum liked to move every 3 to 5 years, so I've actually moved around quite a lot.
A nomad.
So yeah. So I've been to quite a few schools, and I do remember some schools I went to, I actually had hot dinners. And then when I went to senior school, my mum gave me a £1 coin every day that I could get a hot meal at school. Yeah. And I always had the same thing. I had this fascination I loved having 2 sausages with beans, cheese on top.
Obviously, this is before you were vegan.
Yeah, way before. I've only been vegan for 4 years now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But before then, you were 2 sausages, the same thing every day, and you were happy as Larry with that. Your £1 went a long way, didn't it?
My £1 went a very long way. And actually, my mum had said to me, if you don't spend the £1, whatever is left over from my £1, I get to keep it. So there was almost an incentive to not really...
Don't eat food, save your money.
Yeah. But, you know...
You're going to need a mortgage at some point, so you need to...
cost me like 50p or something, right? So I had like this extra 50p that I could maybe get like a popsicle on the way home, like the ice, those nice big long ones, like the long things. Get one of those at the newsagents on the way home. So
no, mine was a curly whirly on the way home, 15p. Gosh, do you remember the curly whirlies?
And 10p packets of crisps, the little ones.
Yes, still do.
Like, they were so cheap, and you just like chuck 4 packets in.
Not really much flavour in there, was there, or anything like that?
No, and like I think they ate 3 or 4 of them, and then they were finished.
That's it. But you enjoyed it. It was your turn to spend your cash, wasn't it? So that's great. Well, the difference between you and me was I've never had packed lunches until I was probably into senior school. I was always school dinners because mum felt it was better because they were free, obviously. It's better for me to have a nice hot lunch.
How did you get free? I had to pay for mine.
Mum's on her own, isn't she? So she used to get help for free school dinners. So I used to get free school meals in primary school and middle school. And going back to some of the meals you used to have then and what the guys have now, because obviously, as you know, my brother's got 2 girls, one's at junior school, one's at senior school now. The difference between the food they have now to then, they have like curries now and more healthy pasta options and that sort of stuff, and salads even in the summer.
It was very kid food, wasn't it, when we were in school?
Very stodgy mash, potatoes,
beans, sausages, burgers,
Exactly. It was stuff that they could produce massively and then just go, there you go. I always loved the puddings, and in the summer they used to do, you used to choose either your pudding or ice cream. So you could have a nice lolly instead.
So you had pudding. Cool. I didn't go down the luxury route. I've got this with my kids as well. And I just had this conversation with a friend of mine who I went for lunch with the other day, where I grew up, I rarely ever had a pudding. Like if we had dessert, it was really special because
there's an occasion.
We didn't have it because my mum just didn't have money to be buying desserts. For my kids, I restrict dessert, being that it's an ice cream normally because that's their favorite thing. They can't have that until Friday night to Sunday night. So Monday to Thursday night, if they're still hungry after dinner, they can have a banana or some other piece of fruit.
Which is right.
But you were eating dessert in school, and I never had that either.
So with the school dinners as well, I used to have quite an easy, like almost like a packed lunch when I got home. So it was cheaper for mum to do obviously a sandwich and that when we got home, maybe a packet of crisps and a drink. We wouldn't get anything treaty Monday to Friday at all. It would just be that sort of stuff. But then that was good for me because I was always out and about doing stuff, always out on my bike, always playing football out the front. So you wanted something quick so you can get out. You didn't want to go, oh, I've got to wait for my dinner yet. Yeah, so it was all about that. But weirdly enough, even though I ate school dinners, and looking back, they were quite big dinners and stuff.
Yeah.
I only got on the chunky side when I started having meals from home. When I started having packed lunches in senior school. So that's when it all started. That's when Mum was giving you the food, and not the people at the school. And so the Mum was doing it. So she'd put like you were saying earlier, I'd have a chocolate bar in there, I'd have crisps in there, I'd have sandwiches in there, and I'd have all these other bits and bobs in there. And that's when it started. And my love affair with Cherry Coke started, because she'd give me £1 some mornings to get a drink on the way to school. And then I found Cherry Coke. But other than that, school dinner side of things was fantastic. And I've got very fond memories of some of the school dinners. It was a chance to sit down with your pals, have a nice bit of dinner, and then go out and playground. So you got more time if you did have packed lunch, because you eat it quicker and you're off out and you haven't got to wait around. But I preferred doing it. And
I
if I had
the
kids,
hot meals.
Yeah, if I had kids, that's the route I'd go down, I think, still, because they still do over here. You just pay on your card at the end of the week. So it's all good. Yeah. So
it's not.
They send you a bill through on a Friday.
Here. I don't have the option.
No?
It's just cold. Yeah, they just got their packed lunches. But there's sometimes that Eric, like my eldest, he likes to take in some leftover dinner if it's pasta. So he quite likes having like a little tub of cold pasta the next day.
That's better, I think. Yeah. So Natasha, that's school dinners. What was your home meals like? So when you were younger, how did your mum and dad do like a Saturday night? Did you have certain meals on a certain day or something like that, or what?
No, we didn't always do Sunday roast. It wasn't like it was a tradition.
That's shock and horror.
My mum was a great cook. She's really good at making food. She just a little bit like me now. I can understand where she's coming from, that she just didn't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And
no, there's more stuff to do. There's other stuff to do.
Yeah, and I get the same. I don't want to spend hours in the kitchen when I could be with my kids playing or doing something for myself, or I'm not into being in the kitchen. Some people out that love making food. I'm not one of them. My mum wasn't one of them, but she could still cook, and I can still cook. I do remember, like, it was a major treat if we got a Chinese, and that would be kind of a Saturday thing.
Saturday night thing?
Yeah, Saturday night. I remember watching, the 6 o'clock TV. You know what it's like all the kind of blind dates.
But by the way, we're not really, really old people. It's not going back too far.
We're 40. So
we're not going crazy.
I remember
you buy a house for £10. Yeah.
No. So I remember watching Saturday night TV with my parents with a Chinese.
Brilliant.
But that was a major treat and didn't happen every weekend. So
no.
I don't, do you know what? I really don't recall dinners. Like, it wasn't eating food wasn't this major thing.
Right.
So
okay.
It was just, well, we're hungry, so we have to eat, my mum didn't get up and make this awesome breakfast every day. We had cereals and we were getting it ourselves and juice. We were never allowed fizzy stuff in the house. We always had fresh juice or diluted squash or something. But food wasn't a big thing, and if we had, which made then it extra special if we did have a dessert,
of course,
or if we were out. Like, I always remember as a kid being told by my mum before we went food shopping, you're not getting anything, so don't ask. Right? I remember that.
You'll get that talk as soon as before you walk in the supermarket. That's what you'll get.
Before we left the house, she literally said
before
to
you left the house, even. Okay.
Yeah, don't ask me for anything. You're not getting it. You wish food shopping, in, out. I don't want any fuss. If you start creating, I'll bring you home. We get nothing for dinner, and I'd be like, okay, And you didn't mess around, because in those days you were allowed to smack your kids. So if I reached for a chocolate bar, my mum's hand would be,
get off.
hitting my hand away.
Yeah.
So you dare not touch. And if you had a tantrum in those days, my mum, literally, if I had a tantrum and I was in the middle of an aisle, she would just walk away.
Yeah, she'd just walk off and leave you. Yeah.
You don't want to follow? All right, I'll see you. I'll wait for you outside then. And she'd just walk off. And then I would freak out. What? And I'd test it, right? I'd test like, no, she's not turning around.
Nah, she's gone. Yeah.
She's gone. She's not stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a very different era, I think, for us. There was a bit more, I think we were raised a little bit more with fear.
I respected my mum totally. I didn't swear in the house. I didn't, like you say, when we went shopping, she would tell me before we walked into the supermarket or wherever, you're not having anything in here. We haven't got any extra money, so that's it. And you just walk around. Yeah, you'd moan because you didn't want to be shopping and you'd rather be at home playing football or whatever, but you would just walk around with your mum and then you'd help her if she needed stuff and then that's it. Not like now, gee.
Like now I have to make it like this jovial thing, right? Like you're helping me get the food and like give them assigned tasks that they can go and get. And
we had no choice, did we? We went shopping, that's it.
Yeah, and even though I say to them before we go in, you know, look, there's no getting chocolate or any sweets. I don't want you to ask me about sweets, okay? Not getting any. They'll still ask. And I feel like it's almost like you can't even kind of pressurize the kids these days. Like,
do you feel like sometimes they can easily manipulate you? Because even though
they
can't
manipulate me,
they can twist things a little bit, can't they?
They can't manipulate me, but they do annoy the hell out of me when they stand in an aisle, but just going, oh, but Mama, please, can we just get this? And then I won't ask for anything else. And you're just like,
until tomorrow. Yeah.
Did you actually hear what I said to you before we went in? You know, it almost makes it like what I said was null and void. So that's annoying for sure.
Yeah.
But I think some other things is not just about the food, right? Because for me, food was food. There was no special thing. And if you got a special thing, it was like it was almost your birthday, right? But it wasn't. So if my mum would be like, oh, you know, I've got a special treat tonight. I've bought, do you remember the Sara Lee Vienna? Vienna thing. Well, if my mum got one of those, you knew she was craving a treat, right? So, and we loved it.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing ever to get one of those. But for you, now you're different, right? Because you said you have a thing on the weekends, which I was quite blown away when you told me this. So you tell our audience about
so
food.
Audience members, you're going to be quite blown away by this because you might actually connect with it really, because a lot of people did back then as well. But I only recently found out, like about 4 or 5 years ago, that certain nights of the week in the UK mean certain dinners. So Friday night over in the UK normally meant, growing up, it was fish and chip night. I didn't know that. There wasn't a thing with my mum at all. So she would not go out of her way to go down the chip shop. She never drove or anything like that. So she wouldn't walk down there and do it. So that was never a thing for us. But Monday to Friday, like I said, would be a sandwich when we got from school, because we've had our hot dinner at school. Saturday would be
right, hang on a minute. So you got a sandwich when you came home from school before you had dinner?
No. So I'd have my dinner at school, my actual dinner at school for lunch.
Right.
And then I came home and then I'd have a sandwich and that would be my tea. And that's it.
Oh, okay, right. See, I had lunch at school, and even if it was a hot meal, I would still get dinner in the evening.
No, it was the other way around for us because it was cheaper for mum to do the sandwich at home and that option at home. So much cheaper.
Okay.
So the money she saved up for Monday to Friday would go on stuff for us to do on Saturday. So if I wanted to go swimming or something like that, she'd give me the money to go swimming. Or later on when I got a paper round, that was a bit different because I could get my own stuff. But it was not until the Saturday. Saturday was a great day TV-wise. When I was a kid, it was fantastic. Friday nights used to change a little bit when my auntie and uncle got more connected with us again. My auntie used to take me to what was then called the hypermarket. You'll remember that, won't you?
Yes.
And it was a huge place, a huge supermarket with these Victorian shops all down one side where the fishmonger was and all that sort of stuff. It was brilliant. She used to buy me these little Hovis mini loaves. I don't even remember them.
Yeah, I remember those.
They look like actual little loaves that you sliced up yourself. She used to buy me them.
Oh, you sliced yours, did you?
No, wait. I sliced it in half.
Rip.
Yeah, rip and go. Brilliant for soup, but I was never a soup kid.
Yeah,
but my auntie would buy me that. She'd buy me Marmite and a nice cube lettuce. Now, they're not normally the things an auntie would buy.
Iceberg
lettuce.
Ice cube lettuce. I was going to say, that's a new one for me.
That's what they're called over here.
Iceberg. Yeah, but you called it an ice cube. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah, ice cube lettuce. Yeah. So the ice cube lettuce, prick. The ice cube lettuce, iceberg lettuce. That was my evening treat. I would put on. So we'd watch. What was that show? Price is Right with Leslie Crowther on a Friday night. And then after that was my favourite programme on a Friday night. So the connection with food was with whatever was on the telly on a Friday night and a Saturday. And a Friday night was Murder, She Wrote after
oh, really?
I'm giving away too much now. So my mum used to make these little sandwich things, like these little rolls for me, and I'd happily sit in front of the telly with my Marmite and lettuce rolls, just watching Murder, She Wrote. Brilliant. But then came the Sunday. Now, as you know, my mum was a single parent and she didn't have a lot of money. But what she always liked to do was give us our treat day on a Sunday. So Sunday, we'd have a Sunday lunch.
Which can I point out already, you just said something quite significant there. Your treats day.
This was
so there was a specified treats day.
This was the treat day, yeah. So the treat day would be, lunchtime would be a full-blown massive roast dinner. So it would be whatever she could afford. If it's a bad week, it'd be a steak pie. If it was a good week, it'd be a nice big chicken or pork or something like that. But it'd have all the trimmings with it. The plates were far too big. Even now, when we go up there, the plates, it's like, from back then, she's still got them. They're huge compared to what we have now. And so that was lunch. Then you'd go out and do a bit of football or whatever. And then she'd call you in at 4:30 because she's done tea. And tea, you'd get into the kitchen. We had this big round table that used to pull out as well. And this big round table, and it would be full on tablecloth on there. It will be little plates that around for all of us. It will be plates of cakes she's made, like butterfly cakes, biscuits, crisps, and all that sort of stuff. And then she'd have like a full-blown, say, fruit cake in the middle as like a centerpiece. And then she'd have in the fridge, she'd have Angel Delight and jelly. Never really ice cream and jelly. It was always
every Sunday.
Every Sunday, without fail. Until we got to a certain age, then it all stopped. But yeah, that's what Sundays were. She would absolutely moan from the moment she woke up to the moment she went to bed about that day. But you knew she loved it. Absolutely adored spoiling her kids with food. She'd be like, "Oh, you not ungrateful. All you do is eat my food and that's it." Rah, rah, rah. But then, and she'd call you in, "Right, your dinner's ready, come on," like that. So you come in, "Oh, just back to school, good goal," or whatever. And then you sat down and went, "Where's dinner then, Mum?" "Oh, I haven't done the gravy yet." So it was all a ploy to get you in to watch her do what she was doing. You know, slaving over what she was doing, sweating on a hot day and all that stuff. And she'd still pull out these roast dinners and these teas. And it was all, looking back now, it's like a show of like, this is what I'm doing for you, so respect it.
So she basically kind of
we did
showered you with love on Sunday by showering you with food.
With the food, yeah.
Right.
So that then in turn obviously led to my love affair with food. And then Mum was the most spices she'd put in anything would be salt and pepper. If you're lucky, she'd put pepper in. But she would not experiment with garlic, any sort of spices or anything like that at all. So your food was quite bland looking back. So my palate up to even to my 20s really was quite bland anyway. But it just brings a smile to my face every time I think about it and see that, you know, that setup on a Sunday and listen to the charts while you're having your tea. And then going, "Oh, I know, it's top 10. I need to go and record it." And then you're sat there trying to record the top 10. And, "Oh, no." And then you think, "Oh, my sandwich is going there." Yeah. And it's like, you're never, it was etiquette as well. You're never allowed to get elbows on the table or anything like that at all. You would be, you know, not eating with your mouth full. My sister and brother used to take the mickey a little bit. So they used to sit there eating their whip and that. And when my mum wasn't looking, they'd look at each other, go with their teeth, so the whip come through their teeth.
Oh, yeah.
Like properly gross. Like, show each other the contents of their mouth. And it's like, "Oh, you're gross," like that.
I remember having that. "Do you like seafood?" And the other person's like, "What?" Yeah. You know, and then you go, "Seafood," and you open your mouth and like show them your food. Yeah, that's gross.
Gross. So we used to do that, and at the end of every meal, we used to on a Sunday, we used to spin the knife. We used to have these old steak knives with wooden handles on.
Yeah.
And we used to spin them. And whoever that landed on first had to do the washing up. Spin it again. Out of the two left, if it landed on you or the sister, they had to do the drying up. And it's always flipping me that had to put the putting away. So they're done, they're dusted up in their rooms and doing what they want to do.
And you're still putting away.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no.
Yeah, it was always me and my brother one had to wash up and the other one had to dry up. But whoever was drying up had to put away as well. So it was a joint. Yeah, you got the combo. So,
yeah,
you know what the favorite job would be to do is the washing up. Because you were done first. Done. Yeah, and out. Yeah.
And you could do it.
We had to take it in turns. Yeah, we didn't have the spinning thing. It was two of us. So it was like, well, you did it yesterday, so you're doing it. Yeah. There was argument still, but But we never had this, like, you have a real, like, you have this tradition that Sunday would be this treat day. I didn't have that at all. So it didn't matter what day it was. And like, actually over here, they also have that Friday in Denmark is sweet day. And I said to my husband about this, that I honestly don't like that because it teaches the children that every Friday they get sweets. It doesn't matter whether they've been the world's biggest dick all week, that they get like sweets.
Danish law.
Yeah, it's just, this is the way it goes. And that's, and I was like, I'm not happy with this. There's something that doesn't sit right in my psychology that they get to have sweets every Friday without fail. They don't have to earn it. They don't like, to me, a sweet is a treat. If you get sweets in a bag, it is a treat. And I had to earn treats unless my mum wanted a treat, right? And then we just got free treats.
Then you got it.
But in fact, my dad worked for a sweet company. So I think I have a different relationship to sweets because he had this massive van that was filled with penny chews and different sweets.
Crumbs,
and he used to go around and sell sweets. So if ever I wanted sweets, I just had to kind of go in the back of his van, or he would have some kind of test ones to have. And
you got to test new sweets and stuff. Yeah,
but it meant that I wasn't lacking sweets.
No.
But it meant that because I had this, huge palette of sweets that I could have, it meant that I didn't need to want after it.
Is it a bit like the saying that if you work in, like, say, a fast food joint, we're not going to mention the names, but the ones with the golden arches and stuff.
Yeah.
That if you work there long enough, that you probably won't want one of their meals.
Probably.
Is that the sort of thing with you? Because you have the sweets there, you probably think, like, too easy, it's there.
Yeah, maybe. I remember working in a restaurant on South Sea Seafront, actually, when I was 16. And, the smell of the chip fat just made me not want chips.
I'm not a fan of that
because I was dishing out chips, all the time.
Yeah.
And it just used to really put me off of ever having chips.
Yeah.
So I really didn't eat much chips when I was a teenager because I was just like, oh, I've been working with that chip fat. So okay, so that's quite interesting. So your actual, you start to make this psychological connection to the Sunday,
happiness,
this
is food.
Massive treat day.
Yeah.
That's how your mum gave you love. Did she? So let's move away from food for a second because we've ascertained that you have a certain things in your life kind of trigger that you need to eat something when you're doing this.
Yes. Yeah.
Or this day means it's a treat day. I never had a treat day. Every day was the same day. If you got treats, that was fantastic. But the next thing is also about the difference of that I had two parents raising me. You had one. I felt very loved by both of my parents equally. That my mum gave me positive affirmations. It was, this is really good that you've done that. And if I didn't do well at something, she went, that's okay. As long as you tried your best, that's all you can do. And if your best isn't good enough, then don't worry about it. Just let that one slide. So I never felt like I had to, I never had to try to win somebody's love.
No.
I always had it there. The only thing I ever remember is as I got into senior school, I was extremely sporty. I played sport every day. I was honestly a little stick when I left. And actually my siblings would give me more hassle than any of my parents would. I remember my sister used to always call me anorexic and take the mick out of me, because she would say, like, you're so thin, but she was basically just jealous because she was overweight when she was in school. So and that used to hurt, you know, if I was like, oh, can I just go to the toilet during dinner, she'd go, oh, you're going to go and throw up, you know, and I'd be like,
of course,
oh, come on, like, get a grip.
You don't need that from your family members at all, do you? At all.
No, and nobody else was like that with me. It was only my sister, right? But luckily there was a big gap. She's 10 years older than me. I didn't have to grow up with her, to be honest, most of the time.
Oh, blimey, that is big, isn't it?
And so it was mainly me and my other brother, who was 4 years older than me. So we kind of grew up together. But yeah, so I was very sporty. The only thing I was sad about was that really my dad never showed up to my hockey and netball matches. Like it would always be my mum, but she couldn't even come every time. Like there were some parents that would be there every match. And
of course,
I kind of wish I had that right, but my parents really need to work because we need the money.
Busy, of course,
So I would get a little bit jealous about that, but at the end of the day, I really can't say I had a really good childhood, so I can't really complain about any of that. But what about you?
You're the youngest as well, aren't you?
I'm the youngest of 4.
So that's another thing we have in common as well. I'm the youngest of mine as well. So,
and did you get like kind of comments from your older brother and sister that but about being the favourite because you're the last? No. Okay.
We always said Kelly was the favourite, the first.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's funny. Well, again, it was always my sister. I think my sister had a bit of some bitterness in her life growing up because she always used to say, like to my brother, yeah, it's okay, Mark, you know, well, Paul gets the attention because he's the first, and Natasha gets the attention because she's the last. It's only the middle kids that get left out. And it was like, oh, come on, like, give me the violin so I can play your sad song, you know, come on.
My sister plays that same card.
Yeah, the middle child thing.
Yeah. Whatever I want Christmas, you get. No, it's not the case. No, brother was obviously 8 years older than me, so again, didn't grow up with him in the same way, similar to you and your sister as well. But he was always there. He's never put me down as a kid. He used to play tricks on me and stuff. Like one day I got home, my mum used to change the bedrooms round all the time.
My mum did that as well.
Yeah, you get home from school and you think, well, I'm just going to go to bed now. You get up to bed, you think, I've moved your room round. And none of your stuff's where you left it. It's like, oh no. And I'll be like, what have you done? Like that. Anyway, I got out there one day and me and my brother used to share. And we had no TV. We couldn't afford to get TV in the bedroom. And I closed, my mum closed the door night like that. My brother's in his bed in the corner and I'm in my bed. And I can see the back of the door from my bed. And I looked, she closed the door. My brother had got a cardboard cutout of Freddy Krueger and put it on the back of the door. I was 8 years old. And I see this flipping clawed man at the back of my door. I screamed the place down. But yeah, mum come in, he got a rollicking, but yeah, the little swine kept putting up. But that's the only stuff he's doing.
What about like, so let's kind of push this in a direction of then your parenting. Because obviously your father left when you were 2. So you were brought up by your mother on her own. Where did your positive affirmations come from? Mum, were they verbal? Was it only mum?
Oh, yeah, mum would always give you praise and all that sort of stuff. She wasn't academic at all. So she could never help with homework and anything like that. But luckily,
so she was very loving and sweet.
She would cover the love and all that sort of stuff. Kelly and Emma would pick up the slack. So even when Dad left, they both. My sister was 6 and my sister was 8. My brother was 10 when he left, and I was 2 and like searching for my dad and all this other stuff and didn't know what was going on and all that. So they took up the slack because Mum was in pieces. And for a 10-year-old and 8-year-old to do so much, it's amazing.
Quite responsibility.
So, we always had a really good connection growing up. I used to annoy my sister something chronic. Of course you do. You try and get your own way and stuff. But and I once shot her in the eye, maybe with a dart gun, and got chased around the house. But yeah, but there's things like that. Nothing, never horrible to each other, nothing like that. It was always, you know, done with love. And then the older Kelly got into his cars, and he'd always be out the front fiddling with the cars and stuff. I'd always be out with him doing stuff, and it was like not a surrogate dad, but you learn all your stuff from Kelly, and which is the bad thing as well. And then you got into that sort of mind frame again.
Because your brother as well is also overweight. Actually, just explain, is there anyone in your family that is not overweight or is really sporty or different to you? Are you all the same?
In my immediate family, we're growing up to a certain point, we're all the same. We're all very skinny. And then we hit a certain age. Kelly was about 15, 16 before he got chunky. Around the sort of time he broke his leg. So he was off for the whole like summer with a broken leg. So he did put on some weight, but he was quite tall at 16, where I wasn't. Emma had puppy fat, probably, and then was quite slim, and then got a bit added weight after she had her first kid. And then me, I was skinny up until a certain point, and then found pizzas and pies and didn't like PE. So that was mainly, I didn't do a lot of PE through school because I got diagnosed with junior arthritis when I was 12. So my hips were always aching, my knees were always aching and stuff. And it was just, but I did play on that quite a lot. And I used to say, I can't do PE today, my hips hurt and all that. And then the teachers would go, that's fine, that's cool. But then they got wise to it and they said, that's fine. I went, brilliant. Because tomorrow you're doing swimming. And that's fine for your hips. And it's like, oh, man.
Oh, no.
So they got me again. And it's like, okay. But I never felt like I was getting fatter at all. I never thought I was getting out of shape because I was still playing football and stuff up front, still riding my bike and things like that. But it was getting to the point where it's like I could feel myself starting to get out of breath more and all that sort of stuff. As you know, I've never smoked, but I did love drinking a lot, to the point where it'd be like 8 cans of cider before we went out, and then loads more in the pub, and then shots and all that sort of stuff as well. So, and then it wasn't until the treats had stopped. The treats had stopped probably on the Sunday treat, as we're talking about, probably stopped when I was 15. And then it was just, you know, it'd always be a Sunday roast though, but then in the evening, just help yourself what you want.
Okay, so now that we've established what our younger years were like, you did the treats on Sunday. I didn't do treats. It was a miracle if we got a treat, and if it was a major thing. And food was just food. And for you, it was quite part of your, because you basically didn't get nice food all week. You had sandwiches for dinner and stuff, and then the weekend was make a massive fuss.
Bugs, love, and fun, basically, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
With mum, you know, with no dad there. I mean, I only ever used to see my dad just before Christmas, and he used to bring around your presents and stuff. And then later on, the older we got, up to 13, I got money from him, but Mum would always make me buy something posh with it that I could have and last me a long time. One year when he first gave us the money, I said, yeah, Mum, you can have that. It was 50 quid. At the time, that's a lot of money. And it was like,
so
wow.
sweet.
And she was like, no, you can't do that. You've got to buy something from your dad for you. And then
I think when I was a kid, if someone gave me 50 quid, I'd be, all right, what can I spend that on?
But as a kid, you go, wow, okay, that's really cool. My dad's giving me that. But then you'll hear my mum muttering to the next neighbour the next day or something in the kitchen while they're smoking 50,000 bags or whatever. And they'd be like, the cheap such and such. You can't even think about getting to a shop to look for something for his kids. But as a kid, you don't think that, do you? So it's like, oh, okay. But he was never there for anything, no birthdays or anything like that at all. So no real connection with him with food at all. I
think your mum treated you. Did the treat day every week because she thought it would keep you all
happy. Yeah. So the happiness was there. We were very, very happy kids. And then later on in life, I started to understand more about my dad and what sort of person he was. He was larger, same age I was large. but he got into the postal service and obviously just worked himself in, basically. But he had a very sweet tooth like my brother. I haven't got a sweet tooth anymore. I'm more of a savoury man. He's got a very sweet tooth. He loves his food. I mean, as you know, recently reconnected with him. And over dinner, he's the first one to finish his dinner, and no one beats Kelly at finishing a dinner. And it was gone.
How has it been to reconnect with your dad?
I was hoping for more. So I was of the understanding for years and years that my depression and the way I am today stemmed from it was my fault that Dad left, because I was the little squinny kid and all that sort of stuff. And no one, I just always thought it was me that broke the whole family up. So it was a weird thing when I met him, and I realised it wasn't anything to do with me at all. And then just meeting him, I wanted more out of the meeting. I wanted more after the meeting as well, about, just a text now and again, see how I was, and that. None of that. So it was like, okay, I need to address this, and we need to look at another way of looking at it. And then, as I spoke to you about before, he was the only time he really got animated and emotional was when he was showing me pictures of his stepkid who lives out in Australia, which was his now partner's kid. And they're like showing us his grandkids and all that sort of stuff. And it just came to me that you've got two real kids here, sat here, talking to you, and you've got actual grandkids there as well. And yet you're getting really animated and, smiley and all that, looking at your other stuff. It's not jealousy. It just struck me as a bit odd. And then when I mentioned it to Kelly, he was like, okay, that is a bit odd. I didn't think of it like that. So we are going to reconnect again. We're going to meet up over my birthday, over Christmas. And, it'd be nice to see him at that time of year.
Would you like to see him more, or you're okay with seeing him?
In a different setting. It doesn't have to, because again, he does, the way he likes to meet up is connected with food. So it wouldn't be just come around his house to sit down. It'd be, let's go for a meal. And it'd be somewhere, a terrible pub which serves like greasy food and all that sort of stuff. But, recapping on everything we've gone through, we both, you had activity most of your life. I didn't. You didn't have your treat days. I did. Both your parents were active and working. So they
and I had both parents around. Yeah. So I had a lot of safety
all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'll take from it, from what we've talked about though? Because we've discussed quite a bit. I mean, we're basically up to current day now, aren't we? From childhood to current day.
Yeah.
So how do you feel your routine is now? Is it better than it's ever been?
I think right now I have an extremely good routine that balances both. Like in my lifestyle, I have a very good balance between fitness and like my food.
Yeah.
I have no bad relationship to food. I have no bad relationship to fitness.
Nothing at all.
They literally do not enter my brain during the course of the day that I should or shouldn't have had, or I should or shouldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
So they are not part of my daily thoughts in any way.
Not at all.
So no, if I eat whatever I want to eat, bearing in mind I'm vegan, so obviously I'm eating vegan.
She never mentions it at all.
So I eat whatever I want to eat. I've never thought, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. I think if anything, the only thing I've ever had that I ever question is I get buyer's remorse. So if I have to buy myself, being a photographer, if I have to buy myself an expensive piece of equipment, which everything I own is always expensive a piece of equipment, I will buy it. I will literally get it home. I will love that piece of equipment. But part of my brain, because I was brought up in a family that couldn't afford these kind of things that I buy now.
Yeah.
Part of my brain's going, but did you really need it? And it's the kind of part of my brain that before I buy stuff, can be something we need in the house. It could be some clothing for my kids. Before I buy anything, I run it past my husband.
Yeah.
Like, I want to buy this. Is this okay if I spend this amount of money? So it's the only thing that I doubt in my life is money. And that's because that's something from my upbringing. So
which is great, I think.
I can completely understand why something like food or fitness would be something in somebody's life as an adult if it was something that was a problem growing up, right? So I get buyer's remorse. I don't get fitness remorse. I don't get food remorse. I don't. I also am going along a spiritual awakening. So I also am taking on board that I can't change anything in the past, and I can't force anything in the future. All I can do is be in the now and take the responsibility for where I am now and where I want to maybe go during the course of today or this week, but to kind of ride the wave, to take the opportunities that come our way. So I've got a very Zen mind at the same time. So I don't think it's good to stress our minds, because one of the biggest diseases of our current day and age is stress. So for you then, what's the biggest take on the overall of your life? What's the biggest thing that's impacted your weight and to now where you are and where you want to go with that?
Childhood definitely has made me obese. It wasn't it was never my fault for it, because even Mum says now, she shouldn't have given us all that stuff at the weekends and all that sort of stuff, and given us all the things we wanted food-wise. It should have been other ways of showing her gratitude, her love for her children. But then when it was my own chance to make my own decisions, I still let that mindset keep me going. I had a really great relationship with food and exercise when I lost loads of weight last time. And I did lose 10 stone, so it's a huge amount of weight. But it didn't stay off. So this time round, I've got a good relationship with the exercise, and I love walking. And my knee being bad has really, has put me in a bit of a gloomy situation the last couple of days. And I've let it do that again. But instead of doing what I used to do, which would be go to food and start, indulging in food, I haven't done. And I've got other problems as well. I gamble a bit too much at fruit machines, but they're shut down, so that's great. And I like a scratch card now and again. So there's other things that I can indulge on instead of food that, that can make me a little bit happier in that. But this time round, I have got a slight problem with food. When the knee did go funny, I automatically thought instantly, because I'm not, I'm not going to be able to exercise as much as I can. I'm going to balloon up to, back to 26 stone again and be really unhappy, really unhealthy. It didn't happen, obviously, because I was watching what I was eating, and my relationship with food has tumbled down a bit. So stupidly, I could go all day with just eating a sandwich, or I could go all day today with just eating a jacket potato and be absolutely happy with that and be full as well. But again, it needs to get that relationship back with food where I had before, which is like a week or so before, where I was eating the better meals and, I was looking after myself better. But that's the brain again. I haven't gone into fat brain again. It's brain's gone a bit too extreme in a way. But, like you said, the fittest you've ever been at 41, that's fantastic. I hope to say the same thing again. So I'm 41 in a few months' time. And I've got all these goals and aspirations of what I want to do in 2021, which we'll talk about in another podcast. And that's what's still striving me to go forward, but it's also striving me to stay away from food at the minute, which is, again, not right.
So you still have a bad relationship with food, is what I'm hearing. Because
exactly.
You're not necessarily eating breakfast. You'll have some water.
I've never really, even when I was a kid, I never really liked breakfast. Okay. Never really was hungry enough to eat that early in the morning, if you know what I mean. Mum used to make me on some mornings. She used to make me a really good ready breakfast. But this is the biggie. My dad taught my brother how to do the perfect ready breakfast, and my dad was a plasterer as well as working for the post office. So he used to make up his ready breakfast with basically the same way he used to make up his plaster. So the same bits of milk to plaster water ratios and stuff. And it was the thickest, horriblest ready bread you could ever see. Your spoon would stand up in the middle of it, and it was covered in sugar, absolutely covered. It was in it, on top of it, like about that deep on top as well. But Kelly taught me how to do that, and it was just amazing. You'd be buzzing your nut off all day long. But now I can't do it. I'd rather have a bit of fruit now, and that's not just me saying it for the podcast. I'm in love with apples. But maybe again, I get myself too emotionally wrapped up in a flavour, and then I go overboard on that, because I bought 12 apples the other day and they were gone in 2 days, and that's not right, is it? Surely.
No.
That's an overdose of apples.
Again, I think, but this is where we need to take away from looking at your upbringing of gorging and on the treats, and this whole thing of getting treats, having a treat day, because essentially what happens is that feeds like a connection between the release of your dopamine and serotonin in your brain is based on treats. So you have mentioned while you were talking that you can't gamble right now because it's all shut because of lockdown, and that's a good thing, you're saying, because it's
very good
to stop. You said you like to buy a scratch card, and I literally heard you say, like, I like to, that's one of my little treats. So I can hear that not only is food a treat, but gambling is a treat. You don't do that with alcohol. You don't go, I'm gonna have a cider, or I'm gonna have.
Can't do it anymore.
Why not?
I can't justify a 2-day hangover. Even though I'm not working at the moment, if I went out drinking, I've got to go, right, okay, if it's a Saturday night, I'm really dead to Sunday and all of Monday.
Okay, so basically that's an age thing, because you can't take hangovers as you get older.
I can't take the booze anymore.
So basically anything that's kind of a quick fix but doesn't have a long-lasting effect after is considered treat for you. Because you mentioned gambling and the food. And I can see, like, it's it takes you into that happy zone, because it's something that you've grown up with, that you get this treat, everything's happy, and
instant satisfaction.
Like you think of those Sundays where it's cozy and you'd be playing with your mates, and then mum calls you in, and you can smell that smell of food cooking in the house, and it takes you back to that era. And I think as much as your mum was doing it out of love, what it's done is spawn something bad in your head that you've now long-term carried it out. But I think what you need to do is stop looking at it as it's a bad thing, because if your mum hadn't have done that, like, your mum has done so many good things, but even the bad things, you have to look at and go, well, if she hadn't done those things, it wouldn't make me the person I am today. It wouldn't make you now have the goals you have today and realize enough's enough. I can't be this way. And that will essentially change your mindset as you go forward from this period on. So you'll carry that now forever, because you're going to slowly start to not need these things that you've had bred into you from childhood. That you're carrying now into today. So you are going to find that you won't need to go and buy scratch cards. That's not a treat, because it can also be a downer, right? You can also not win on a scratch card.
Of course it is,
terrible.
Most times.
So I think as we move through these podcasts, and obviously open this up to our listeners and hear their opinions too, I think it's good to remember that even our dark sides, we need to put love into that part, because unless we start to love it and cherish it and find a way to nurture it into a good place, you can't combat it. You can't fight fire with fire. We need to come at it from a place that you can look at it and go, okay, I really don't like that thing about me. But instead of keep hating it and pushing it down, not wanting to see it, and then it sparks bad thoughts in my head when it comes up, we want to look at it and go, okay, that's part of me that's a little bit damaged, but let's let's fix it. Let's take that in. Let's love it. Let's fix it in a loving way instead of bashing our heads with it. Because I think it's the bashing. Yeah. It's the bashing that makes you go, that's it. I'm not eating carbs for a month.
Yeah.
And I'm cutting out bread forever. And then you get to a day and you crave some bread and you go, oh, smell that bread as you walk past the bakery. And then you break and you go and you buy this beautiful fresh bread or maybe some cakes and you just eat the lot of it. And then you have eater's remorse afterwards and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. In Hagrid voice, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Like
who?
Hagrid.
Don't know.
Have you never watched Harry Potter?
No.
You're a film buff. Why have you not watched Harry Potter?
No. I started to watch that first Harry Potter when Holly was little, when she got it on video.
You've got to watch Harry Potter. What's wrong with you?
Oh my God, it's disgusting.
That's like saying I've never watched Lord of the Rings.
I've never watched Lord of the Rings.
What?
I have. It's not my trilogy though, is it? It's not my trilogy. My trilogy is Star Wars still. So that to me is
I love that it's not actually a trilogy anymore, but sure.
Well, back then, if you're a real Star Wars fan, then there is only
that
one
is
trilogy.
The trilogy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, but we're going back to what we were saying, and we are going to touch on we're going to do a Christmas episode as well, aren't we? So, and that will be our relationship with Christmas food, the Christmas period, that sort of stuff as well.
What fears do people have coming up to Christmas? Are you worried about overeating, buying all those chocolate tins?
Yeah, and it's a lot cheaper than it's ever been over here as well. You can get 2 tins of roses at the moment for £9 and stuff like that. It's crazy. And I think one place is doing it for £7 for 2. So we're going to touch along the Christmas line pretty soon, and hopefully we'll get a lot of the listeners giving us some interesting feedback.
Yes, because we have a Facebook group and we'll put some links in so you can find us on YouTube and also Facebook. So if you want to join our Facebook group and come and join in our talks, because we'll also open it up that before we have because we plan our podcast. So when we know we have a podcast coming up, we can invite the people in the group to come with their worries and concerns or anything they're struggling with that we can maybe bring up in the discussion and talk about. We will potentially also be able to invite people to these Zoom meetings that we have.
Zoom in together,
Yes, if you want to come on the Zoom with us, we can do that.
Your best lippy on, your best lippy, your best hat.
I never put
many hats as you can get.
So I'd like to thank everybody who has tuned in today and listened to us babbling on about growing up. If you have any questions for us, if there's anything you want to discuss, we're also ready for any backlash. If there's anyone out there that's like, you guys are terrible, don't want to ever listen to you again.
Come out.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, haters.
It's all a discussion.
Yeah, we're not scared of what anyone's got to say.
No. In the same vein, we got to hear what your Sundays were like. We want to hear what your childhood was like. What was your go-to dinner? Yeah, we want to discuss were
your families
where you went wrong. Yeah, exactly. Where you went wrong, where you went right. It all starts from childhood. So come on, give us a hit us up here or wherever Natasha's going to put it, because she's the brain box. Here or here, and then we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Mahala.